Today I'm going to show you how to knit a super cute little kitty cat hat like this one here for a Lego guy, a tiny Lego guy hat. And as you can see, it's kind of adorable here, and I've knit a lot of them so far, over 100. So I have a few tricks on how to make it super easy, and I'm going to share all of those with you today. All right, so before we begin, what are we going to need? We're going to need double pointed needles, a tapestry needle, some yarn. This is sock weight yarn. It's super thin yarn. Okay, and a row counter. You may need a felting needle and a foam mat, possibly, depending on how it goes, and even a bowl of water also is what you'll need. Okay, so if you would like a written pattern for this, you can buy a written pattern for just over $1 on Etsy. I have an Etsy shop called Lucky Fox Knits, and the pattern's available there. Okay, so I'm just gonna leave myself just a little bit of yarn, and in the pattern it says to cast on 12 stitches, but I'm going to cast on an extra stitch because I want to have a seamless join right here. And on this scale, you're gonna have to do that extra stitch to join for knitting in the round. So here I go. I'm going to cast 5 stitches onto my first knitting needle. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's 5 on the first knitting needle and 4 on the second knitting needle. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 4 on the third knitting needle too. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now I'm going to take the short end, put it in the front, and the back, the running yarn is, at the back of my work. So now I have 13 stitches cast onto my double points here, and I'm going to do one little trick here. I'm going to take the first stitch and slip it, right? And then I'm going to sneak back here and I'm going to slip the previous stitch over that stitch, like that. Now my work is joined seamlessly in the round. Okay, and I have 12 stitches. I have 4 on this one, 4 on this one, and 4 on this one. And I'm going to knit exactly 5 rows. First row is the trickiest. I'm going to try not to split my yarn, but I'm just going to do the best I can with that. Okay, here we go. It helps to cast on just a little bit looser and not cast on your stitches super tight. Okay, so I've knit 1 row and I've returned back to my loose end here. So I know I've worked 1 row, and I'm going to keep track of my rows there. Okay, 4 more rows. Now some people ask me, they say, but can't you knit this on circular needles? And the trouble is that this is such a tiny knitting project. You really need double points to really get something this tiny knitted in the round. But I suppose you could use the magic loop if you really wanted to. Okay, that's coming up on the end of the second row. That's 2, 3 more. what I like about this project is it's really fast. It makes an adorable little gift, and it's just fun and satisfying to knit something up this fast. And you can knit these with any scrap sock yarn. Sometimes when knitters finish a pair of socks, they have some sock yarn left over, and it's usually a tiny little amount that you don't really know what to do with. Well, now you know what you can do with it. 2 more. And the last row, the 5th row. And voila, the hat is knitted. So now we're going to work the 3-needle bind off across the top of our stitches. And our live yarn is right here at the front of our work where our loose end is, right? They kind of match where they're at. So now I just need to divide the stitches evenly. And I have 12 stitches, so I'm going to have 6 on one needle and 6 on the other needle. And I need to put the stitches on these 2 needles, right? Because I'm going to start where my live yarn is at the front of my work here. And all I'm going to do is simply come over here and slip 2 stitches onto this needle, and then slip the remaining 2 stitches onto the other needle, like this. All right. Now I am perfectly set up to work a 3-needle bind off, which I am going to do. I'm just going to knit through both of the front stitches, pull a loop through, slip those off. Then I'm going to knit through the next 2, slip that off, pass the previous stitch over the one I just worked, and continue in that same fashion. Last one here. Okay, now for the tricky part. So I'm going to tighten this first, just pull on the loop. Then I'm going to clip my yarn, leaving enough for me to weave in the loose ends later. And I'm going to pull my loose end through and tighten that. Now look at what I have here. I have a hat that it has a sharp angle here, so it's not square across the top like one of my finished hats, right? It has a kind of an odd shape, to say the least. So let's fix that. First thing I'm going to do is that you see these loops are a little loose here, so I'm going to come in with a double point and ease out that little bit of extra yarn there. And I'm just pulling on both sides of each stitch in the top row and easing out that loose yarn. Okay, so there we go. That's a lot better. But we don't settle here. We don't settle for better. We go all the way, right? So now we take this loose end, thread that tapestry needle, and I'm going to pull that loose end through to the other side, just inside this little V stitch right here in the corner. And I'm going to make sure I'm not cutting through the yarn, going through to the right side, and pull that all the way through, give it a little pull. And while I'm at it, I'm going to put my other loose end into the wrong side because it's kind of here peeking out. So I'll just sneak that guy in. And I'm going to weave in my loose ends. So just turn the work inside out. And I do a really quick weave in here. I just work on the diagonal like this. And my loose ends are pointing up towards the top of the hat, so they're never visible. And this keeps it in place perfectly fine. Clip that loose end, put it in my pile of loose ends. And here's my second one here. Also, I'm just going to work on the diagonal. It's a really fun way to very quickly weave in the loose ends without much trouble. I'm going to redirect and go towards the top of the hat on this one, this loose end too. Okay, loose ends woven in. Now you might be wondering, what do I do with all these scraps, right? What do I do with these scraps? Well, in the springtime, if you leave them outside, the birds will take them and put them in their nests for their little chicks. And it keeps all those little baby birds nice and warm. So that's a really good use for your scrap yarn. And that's what I do with my yarn. I actually like seeing all the bright colors in the bird nests too. And then I turn my little hat right side out. Give it a little pull on that one corner that was leaning down. And you know what? It's starting to look really nice. All right, so it's got a little bit of fuzzies from working on it, which I can just come in with some scissors and very gently clip those, just trim those down without getting my yarn, and off the top, of course, off the back. Okay, so most people would stop there, but not me. Oh no. I'm just going to check out these corners and even them out. And this is a really quick little trick for fine detailing. This is a needle felting needle, right? And it has little tiny little barbs in the metal here that tangle the little microfibers like that. So I can see that this corner kind of sticks out a little more than this one. And that's a really easy fix. You just poke at it a few times. And that straightens it right out, just like that. It's really quick and easy. And then after that, I know there's a lot of steps. I'm just gonna block it by chucking it in some water, right? And I have one here that's already fully soaked. I'm just gonna wait for that to sink until it's completely soaked. And then I squeeze a couple of drops of water out of it. And I block it, just like this, with little pins. All right, because I don't want any of the corners coming up. So there is my blocked little tiny kitty cat hat. Voila, just like that. And I'll just leave that to dry until it's done. When it's fully dry, it'll be completely done. And the last thing that I want to go over is how to put these hats on the Lego guys. Because, you know, Lego guys, they don't have any ears, their heads are completely smooth, and how do you make this fit? Right, because there's a little trick to it. So he's wearing a little bit of little scuba tank back here, And I just take a needle and just tuck the hat right back here behind the little scuba tank. That kind of holds it in place for me, and I just pull it up off of his eyes like that. And the little ears up here at the top, they form on their own. I don't do anything. They just kind of are there because it's square and his head is round. And you can just kind of massage it into place until it fits really well. And you'll notice that I left the seam from the 3-needle bind off on the outside of the hat. And that's because the hat is just so tiny that leaving it on the inside creates too much bulk, too much mass inside the hat. And it doesn't look as nice. And believe me, I've tried it. So there you have it. That's how you knit a super adorable little itty bitty teeny tiny Lego guy kitty cat hat. And of course, if you want the pattern and if you want other awesome mistake-free patterns, check out my Etsy shop, Lucky Fox Knits. Thanks for your attention, guys.